Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts now.
All righty, welcome to the early edition of the Factor Uncensored, Factor Primetime Live. Glad to have you here. And remember, if you have a question or comment, join us on the chat. Leave your comments there, and we will try to get there as well for your questions. So thank you once again for joining us. Matt Horn, are you in the house or are you watching the USA Bosnia game right now? You see, I have my USA soccer shirt on.
Listen, I told you to buy me one of those shirts, Isaiah. I'm waiting for it in my new office tomorrow.
I'm fresh out. They were $11.99 at Walgreens, 40% off. I told you where they were for a week now, and you've never made the move to go get one.
Listen, all I got to say is I'm trying to be like you, Isaiah, when I grow up. So that's a nice looking shirt, though. I'm going to tell you this much. For the price you spent on that shirt, that looks pretty nice.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We do what we can on a small budget. If it ain't a layaway plan, we make it happen. Well, Matt, we'll see you a little bit later in the show. And we want to get down to action business, what people are talking about today. And of course, on the list is President Donald Trump. Now, President Trump is facing some backlash. Advocates are warning that recent actions by his administration could signal a move toward institutionalizing people with disabilities. Critics say the shift threatens years of progress made toward inclusion, support for people with disabilities as well. Joining us here to talk about this is special education teacher and city council member. We have with us Arnetta Murray. Now, Arnetta, what we know is we have seen the Justice Department issue a 9-page memo basically saying that we do not have to follow the rules and regulations.
So Isaiah, Arnetta's having some issues. So let's go to Brian K. Roberson with the new student loans rules.
Okay, we got it. There's a voice of God intervening. It's always good to see you, sir.
Yes, what's going on, everybody?
Well, we are still talking about the Trump administration and the latest. July 1st, new law went into effect. New student loan rules take effect today. And borrowers need to understand what is changing before it impacts their payments. If you take no action, you could see your payment go up significantly. Also, no more SAVE Act. We have the expert here, Educational Consultant Brian Roberson. Mr. Roberson, when we talk about student loans and student loan debt out there, I think there's a long list of people, millions of Americans who are still struggling to pay for their student loans. I think the average amount of a loan is around $39,000, but I feel like it's more than that because I've listened to some radio talk shows where people have talked about their student loan debt, and I hear people talking about $400,000. We're talking about couples now, those who have received advanced degrees from master's to PhD. And of course, they're trying to survive because they simply can't afford to pay back those loans. But now, July 1st, some new rules in place with student loans here in this country. So, Brian, what can we expect? Lay it out.
So first, what we saw on July 1st, 2026, today, what we saw is the biggest overhaul with federal student loans in decades. And so these changes stems from some legislation back in 2025. I think they called it the Big Beautiful Bill, but we'll find that it's going to turn out pretty ugly for some folks that look for higher ed. The first thing that jumped out to me is the fact that the graduate plus loans are being eliminated for new borrowers. So starting today, you can no longer use the graduate plus loan. This means that many graduate students will have fewer financing options. Many will need scholarships, assistantships, even employee tuition assistance. What you'll see is a lot of those loans that we've traditionally been able to request are going to be more privatized. And anytime you look at a private loan, you don't have the same protections that we've had thus far with the current ones. When you just talked about the amount of loans that many Americans have, it's going to look a little different. Now with these new caps, graduate students will be capped annually at $20,500. Now, I just got a doctorate from Baylor. I don't think I would have got too much assistance with those caps, but it's also a lifetime graduate limit of 100,000. That can hurt us. My undergraduate experience was greatly helped by the Parent Plus loan. There's now a maximum of 20,000 per year and a lifetime max of 65,000. And that can hurt some students, or it can really hurt some institutions where if I know that tuition over a 4-year time frame may be about $100,000, it's a good chance that that may not be the school that I'm looking at if I am a middle-class family that I'm going to need some assistance.
And we've heard from the Trump administration and the Secretary of the Education Department, McMahon, and they've said, well, we are capping these and creating these limits to force some of the institutions of higher learning to lower their prices. But how likely is that willing to happen, Brian? Will institutions now say, well, since the government is capping all of these loans, student loans, and we are going to reduce our prices when we know these institutions are growing?
Well, we're really going to have to get flexible. What we've seen, even in the state of Texas, the governor has issued some, it's not legislation, but issued a order capping and freezing tuition costs. Well, tuition may have frozen, but the fees associated to go into higher learning institutions are still going up. And so we've heard that argument, but the cost of everything is going up. So I just don't see how that's going to really impact some institutions. You also go back to the financial assistance that many middle income and minorities have not seen over the last few years with the Trump administration. It's making it to where it's harder for middle income individuals to seek higher education, as well as middle income individuals to further their education. I may have a 4-year degree, but in my career, I want to get the master's, I want to get the doctorate. This is going to make it that much harder for individuals who can't afford to pay out of pocket to go to school. It's going to be harder for those individuals to be able to better their educational attainment.
And let's talk about, you said when you get private entities involved in student loans, which we have seen for quite some time, but more involved in the student loan process, then we're talking about potentially higher interest rates. So paying back is going to be a bitch.
Oh, yeah. You're right about that. When you think about, like, right now, we have approximately 7 million borrowers, and they're currently using, they're enrolled in the SAVE plan. Well, that plan that was a Biden era plan is now gone. And so now we're going to see borrowers generally only have 2 types of repayment options. One is a repayment assistance plan. They like to call it RAP, which is income based. And then there's a tiered standard repayment plan. Right now, if you are getting in that repayment plan, or if you are an existing individual, you have 90 days to select the new repayment option. If you fail to do so, they'll automatically select it for you. And that may not be the choice that you want.
And I'm hearing if you're automatically put into their plan, you will likely see higher payments. And of course, the deadline is September 30th. Yeah. And there have been reports in the past, Brian, where individuals have said, well, I didn't get the new information. My contact information may not be up to date. So, and I don't think this administration is listening to that. You need to make them aware of where you are so you won't miss the necessary paperwork before you put into this automatic payment plan or this automatic payment system where you will be paying higher monthly notes.
I think we've all got pulled over and heard ignorance is no excuse. And so this I'm just telling you. And so this is going to be one of those cases you have to go out and seek that information. You have to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to ensure that all of your information is updated, whether it's the phone number, the email address, the addresses, because saying that, oh, I didn't get the information, that doesn't matter. You will be penalized in the long run. And it really hurts to see this. Like I say, I received my doctorate this year. So all of it, I've gotten all the schooling that I need. But when I look at individuals that want to go back to school right now, this is really going to hurt them And so, some of the advice that I would give to folks, especially when you see these caps, whether undergrad or graduate, borrow only what you need.
Mhm.
Because when you see overturned, they're saying you're only going to get 65,000 or 50,000. I remember being an incoming freshman in college, and everyone was getting the refund checks and buying an Impala. We are past those days.
Right. You got to just survive now, Doc.
We was flipping around in those Chevys. But borrow what you need, especially when you're trying to see it through and you don't think that you're going to be able to have any other scholarships come in. This also makes us think, how much sooner should we engage with young people on seeking out financial aid options as far as scholarships, grants, instead of just waiting until the senior year to see what the local organization or fraternity or sorority is going to give you. You really have to go out and get it, at least through the interim of this administration. I'm sure that some things may change or get updated in future years, but if this is the law of the land right now, if this is what we're going to see under this administration, we really got to buckle down and do what we have to do.
All right. And Brian, before we lose you, let's bring in Matt Horn, our executive producer here at The Factor, also the Nightcap, and chatting with Chelsea. And you'd think with a title that heavy, he'd be pulling in a whole lot of money and not complaining about his damn student loans.
Listen, Isaiah, at the end of the day, we still work for the same company, so you understand the pressure. But the thing that's funny, though, is I'll have to say this, is when it comes down to, I think the advice that you had mentioned, which I think is great, is about not maxing out your student loans. So for me, I grew up in rural Ohio. I grew up without having a lot of people to properly teach me proper finances and things like that. So when I went to college, I was one of those students where I'm like, I wanted to maximize student loans because I felt like I was actually making more money. I had more money readily available. And back in 2005, I was like, I ain't got to worry about this. I'm going to worry about this down the road. Well, down the road is now. Right. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's so funny because at the time when I was going to school up in Ohio and I went to a public university, it was still one of the more expensive public universities, but I still have tens of thousands of dollars in student loans right now. And kind of going to your point, like I maxed out my student loans when I had the opportunity because it was convenient. I didn't have to get a job. I could sit there and party and I could do all these different things throughout college. And I had the $7,000 per semester, so $14,000 per year. And I was rolling like a rock star at the time. Like I was going out partying, spending money on my friends, doing X, Y, and Z. And now I'm paying for it. And at the end of the day, the interest rates and everything like that, it's coming to bite me in the rear end. So it's stressful. It's a lesson learned, I think, that a lot of people could take and run with for the future.
One of the things that you just shared that it made me think about, this ought to let folks know when you get in, get out. We've seen so many folks that, life does happen, but we've seen some folks that have enjoyed college and enjoyed the student loans and enjoyed an extra semester here and just doing the minimum as far as hours. I only need 12 hours. I can stretch this out. This ought to let you know you need to get in and get out because we don't know what else is going to change, what future caps. If tuition does rise in future years and you have this cap, well, I'm a second semester sophomore and I have no more money left. And so I think that's another thing for potential borrowers. Get in and get out while you can.
And of course, Brian, one of the things that Matt mentioned, he was young then. And so what would you tell parents to counsel their children as they enter into college? Because, we can talk to the adults. They get it. Get in, get out, because these rates could change. These plans could change. But how do you send that message home to the young students, the children who are so young, to get in and get out and don't make it fun? Or, have fun, but, don't become that super senior where you can just marinate there forever.
I'd say a student loan is an investment. It's not free money. And the best loan is the one that you never have to borrow. So every dollar students can replace with scholarships, grants, work study. I don't think we talk about work study enough, or savings is a dollar that they will not have to pay back for graduation. So one of the things we talk about in our schools, we need to talk about financial literacy much earlier with young people. Let them know what options are out there. You might have to get that job. You may have to look into the work study. I went to Lamar University as an undergrad. I worked on campus the entirety of the time. I worked in student housing. I worked in rec sports, and I used that work study to my benefit. And so thinking that we're just going to go to class and sleep it off, that's not really the way. So as a parent, get in, get out, go there and focus on what you need to. You may have to look at helping to supplement the financial aspect of your get a job on campus in the library. There's so many jobs on campus that they're looking for quality folks. And don't be afraid to apply for scholarships. Someone just put in, can scholarships be applied while in 8th grade? Well, you can start looking and applying. I don't know if they're going to do the awarding. I remember when I was a freshman, I went into the student affairs office to turn in a $500 book scholarship request. Not only did I get that, I was cracking jokes with the secretary. The VP walked out and said, "What's your name?" He liked me enough, gave me a job in student affairs, and I had a job for the rest of college. And it was really, it was that, and that's what made the difference for me. That job, that book scholarship, that's how I was able to get in and out in 4 years. And that's the conversation we really need to start having earlier.
And
All right,
Dr.
guys.
Roberson, one thing I want to add too, though, like I think one of the things when it comes to that is, like, for me, like, I was trying to break the cycle. Like, as where I came from, I was trying to break the cycle. I was trying to have a better life for myself, and I didn't know how to do that. So again, when it came to the money, it's like, this is the first time I actually had a chance to have money that was readily available. And I mean, looking back on it now, like, $7,000 to a lot of people isn't a lot of money, but for somebody who came from not a lot, that is a lot of money. So it's like, let's max that out. And it's just always interesting to me, because I think you bring up a lot of good points with this, but from somebody who's done those experiences, who has broken the cycle, who's as Isaiah said, when I was young. But I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's like, there's so much learning to it. And I think the thing that a lot of people, like, to put it in the context, back in, what was it, 2023, when they were like, if you were a Pell Grant recipient and you're making X amount of dollars and stuff, you're going to be able to get X amount of dollars knocked off. I was so excited about that, because I'm like, great, this impacts me. I was a Pell Grant recipient. I grew up in, like, during my years in college, like, my father at the time, he had lost his job during the recession and everything like that. So it's like, we didn't have that money readily available. So I was just like, that was great. And it's a lot. So there's a lot of people from different backgrounds. I don't think they understand what's all readily available to them. And I think it's making it difficult for some people who don't have money.
I was a George Bush fan because of the Pell Grant. It actually increased each year I was in college. And we don't know what we don't know. I came from a household, I didn't talk about college growing up. And the lessons I learned, student loans and cons credit, those were two things I learned very quick. So lessons learned.
Say, Matt, you just be glad you weren't in the day when they were on campus. A credit card company used to be on campus giving you the application to automatically get a credit card. I had to unravel that out of my life. Get rid of that, So those are just like all the pitfalls that you see while in college. But now, like Dr. Roberson says, get in and get out. And we just had a viewers say, I'm in law school working a very demanding job, and the amount I will now be required to pay is actually ridiculous. And that's classy K86 gaming. And I'm sure you can attest to that, Brian. Really quick, wrap us up on that comment.
Well, when you think about it, it's hard for some folks to get in and get out if you are working full-time jobs. I was working full-time. I have 4 kids. I'm married, and I'm working on this doctorate. I started when I was a principal, and then got into educational consult. It's hard, and wrapping up and seeing some members of my cohort finish sooner than others, those demands are tough on folks. And so when you see the game being changed while you're on the field, while you're carrying the ball towards the end zone, that can be very disheartening for folks. And so I really think that we need to take an opportunity to first reset. Don't think I'm a failure because I haven't finished it. No, stay the course, but understand the new rules of the game. And when you understand it, you know how to play.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for joining us, and good to see you always here. And we'll see you nighttime at the Factor. Glad to have you, Dr. Roberson. And also want to thank you to Classy K86 Gaming for leaving a question, and Rello Beats for also leaving a question. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Matt, I heard you slip up. You said back in Depression days. I knew you were 80 plus.
Listen,
like,
I know as soon as I said that, I was like, wait a minute.
When we were eating potato soup. All right, Matt, we'll see you in just a moment. Now it's time to get back to another Trump administration decision about institutionalizing people with disabilities. We started on this, and now we're going to get back to it. Advocates are warning that recent actions by President Trump could signal a move toward institutionalizing people with disabilities. Many people call it warehousing those with disabilities. We have Arnetta Murray, who's a city council member and also special education teacher. Arnetta, thank you for joining us here on the Factor Uncensored, the early edition. Glad to see you. And when you hear what the Trump administration is, okay, the voice of God is here again. What's up? Okay, I can't hear you either, Keyshawn, really quick.
Keyshawn decided not to unmute his microphone. He just wanted to have his face up here on the screen.
My bad.
So we're still working on Arnetta, right?
Just restart your phone. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Matt and I will talk about really quickly the Ohio bill, and that is your territory, Matt, where you're from, where now there is a movement, there is a bill that would require schools to teach kids to get married before having kids. Oh. They said, get married before having a kid. And many people are saying that this is the result of Christian groups pushing their agenda in the schools, and others say, well, critics say, like LGBTQ plus groups say, that's not always the route you need to take, and basically guiding students through this, telling them what to do is not the right direction. So you're from Ohio, Matt. What do you think about this bill that would teach young people to get married, first get a job, finish high school, get a job, then get married, and then have children?
You know, it's interesting. So like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, like I'm from rural Ohio. So like the largest
Does that mean the country?
The country bumpkin, country bumpkin. So like the largest city in my school district had 1,000 people in it. Mm-hmm. So like I graduated with about 75 people or so. So I mean, it was a very Republican area, very conservative area. And I mean, it's interesting. So like when I was from Ohio, a lot of things have changed. So back in the day, back during the Depression days, as I misspoke earlier, it used to be a lot more of a swing state. There was a lot more of it was more moderate when it came to things. So I don't think we would have ever seen something like this necessarily back in the early 2000s. It's interesting because I briefly called my sister because she still works in the public school system in Ohio. And I had asked her, I was like, have you heard about this? And she was like, oh, God, no. She goes, I haven't heard about this because it was just passed. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hurry up, read over it, send me back what your thoughts are. She still hasn't done that yet. But
I think she passed out.
Exactly. She was like, oh my gosh. But, you know, I mean, it's interesting to me because I feel like that Ohio is a very blue collar state. You have a lot of the I mean, a lot of people are trying to gosh, I'm like blanking out what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, I think people are sitting there trying to figure out the best way to live that wholesome life, if you will. But I mean, when it comes to this, I don't want people to tell me what to do, and I don't think anybody else should want somebody to tell them what to do when it comes to getting married before you have kids. Now, with that being said, there were a lot of people who got pregnant and knocked up before high school was done, but still.
But you take a look at it, Matt. I mean, it makes sense. They're saying obviously they want to keep people off the path of being poor,
Yeah.
having a successful life. And they said, here are the easy steps: go through school, graduate from high school, get a job, married, then have children. When you look at it on the surface, is it because maybe religious, Christian, or more conservative groups are pushing it that it makes it negative? Because it just makes total sense. I
I
would
think that I think the thing that's interesting to me, I mean, Ohio in general, and if you look at the Rust Belt states, which I include Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, those areas and stuff where they were really booming during the Industrial Revolution and stuff like that. Ohio is a poor state, maybe not as poor as like a West Virginia or something like that. Like you have Columbus and Franklin County, which has money and it's continuing to grow, but you have the Clevelands, the Youngstowns, the Akrons, Toledos, Daytons, and those are all poverty stricken areas. So at the end of the day, on paper, it sounds good. But even the jobs that people are getting, a lot of them are manufacturing jobs. A
Mhm.
lot of these jobs are not paying well, maybe 15, 20, $25 an hour. And in the scheme of things, that's not a lot of money. So yeah, you could get married, have a job, and then have kids, but those kids are still going to be expensive as hell at the end of the day, no matter what the circumstances are. So it sounds good on paper, but I think that unless they start raising the minimum wage and everything like that, I mean, it's going to kind of not make a huge difference. And I'm actually
And really
Googling
quick,
right.
Matt, we're going to take a break here from Fox Local, but we'll continue our conversation. And in a bit, we'll come back with Arnetta Murray when we talk about the possibility of warehousing those with disabilities. But would you be more comfortable with this bill in Ohio if it did not have the backing of these various groups? If educators, if parents came together and said, hey, let's just encourage the kids to finish high school first, get a job, marry, and then have children.
I'm
It
going to say,
doesn't sound that bad.
I'm gonna say no. I still wouldn't be in favor of it, even if it were liberal groups. And the reason for it is the families that I grew up in. Let me see. My dad was one of six. I think every single one of them were divorced. So at the end of the day, I don't look at marriage as something that means it's a successful thing. I'm used to divorce. I'm used to seeing divorce. So I don't see that being pushed for people to get married, have kids as a good thing necessarily, because then you have a lot of kids who are like, oh, well, look, my parents got married. They followed the advice they're supposed to take. Now they're divorced, or now it's a broken household, X, Y, and Z. So I'm also, in all fairness, kind of, I don't say anti-marriage, but I'm not exactly the person that's going to be like, oh my gosh, let's go get married today type of thing.
All right. Well, I tried, man. I tried.
But Han,
All
really
I-
quick, Isaiah, one thing I do want to say though, so I just looked it up. What do you think the minimum wage is in Ohio for non-tipped employees?
For non-tip employees.
Yeah.
And we're talking about like restaurants and bars,
Yeah. So anything that's not tipped. Yeah, with that.
like $2 to $3.
No. The ones like the non-tipped employees. So like if you're working at Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, I would say $11, $12 an hour.
You're right on. It's $11 an hour. So I think like even like the area that I grew up in, like I can't tell you. So the biggest, trying to think, like the area that I grew up in, there were a couple of like manufacturing companies that were big, and it was Honda or companies that supported Honda because they have a plant up in like the Marysville area, which is in Union County. And then you have Scott's Miracle Grow, which is also in Marysville, or you could drive 30, 40 minutes to Columbus and then you could get jobs up there and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just there's a lot of jobs that didn't pay really well and stuff like that. So it's interesting.
I think the era of surviving on one job in America has long disappeared.
Yeah.
And we've talked, I think, either earlier this week or last week about how people worked at department stores like Sears, J.C. Penney's, and they raised a family and had summer vacations. You try to do that crap now,
Listen,
you're in big trouble, man.
if I If I try to take summer vacation right now, it's called unemployment.
Hey, you just tried to force me to take some time off, didn't you?
Listen, that's because I got the email saying Mr. Isaiah Carey is nearing his maximum on time off. So yes, I did. And if you don't
So I
want
have
to,
too many I actually posted that on my Facebook page. I have too many, and at least you guys are encouraging me to take time off and have work-life balance. So that's why I'm gonna spend like 2 weeks in Cut and Shoot, Texas.
oh my gosh. Well, listen, if you don't want to take time off, Isaiah, I will be more than happy to take it off of your plate. Just feel free to send that my way.
Here's the voice of God. He's saying, y'all are talking too long about this Ohio crap.
I want to know when you take it off so I can take off. When you're off, I'm off.
Okay, there you go. There you go. So I'm going to use some of those days after FIFA's over.
Okay.
All right. Let's get to Arnetta Murray. Can we get to Arnetta now?
We can. I think Arnetta hears us. Shake your head, Arnetta. Okay, cool. She hears us. Okay.
Arnetta Murray, she is a special education teacher, a city council member, and she's here to talk about the Trump administration and the latest move. Many critics are saying that the Trump administration is attempting to warehouse those with disabilities, basically ignoring the 1999 Olmstead case where they said you should not segregate those with disabilities. They would develop and progress better and have a more successful life integrated with everyone else. Also, the 1990 ADA federal law that went into effect. So when you hear the Trump administration in this 9-page memo that leaked and somehow got into the press where they said, we don't have to follow these rules anymore, and states don't have to provide services for these individuals under that law. What are your thoughts about that?
First of all, I think, excuse me, it's a travesty. It's the reason for the Individual Disability Educational Act. It's the reason because they're there to protect our special ed kids and to make sure that they're getting their at least restricted environment, which means you're placing them in a classroom that's appropriate for their learning, but it won't impede learning from the general ed student. So basically he's saying, we're gonna maybe switch it to the Health and Human Services. I don't agree with that. That's because if you know anything about Health and Human Services, they are already overwhelmed with the elderly population, and they're not doing that adequately enough. So I think it's really
at the bottom of this, Arnetta, are we talking about this is the backup because there's been a push by the administration to get rid of the U.S. Education Department?
Absolutely.
So there's no education department there. Secretary McMahon, she's trying, she's mothballing it. If there's no education department here in the United States, who's going to oversee the kids with disabilities?
Absolutely. No, you're on it. That's basically what they're doing. They're reversing the clock, Isaiah. Back in the 30s and 40s, you used to have those kids in all those special ed kids in a room, but people fought for inclusion. And now he's saying, you know what? We want to put them in a new, area of the Health and Human Services. And I think that's, like you're saying, they're trying to get rid of the Department of Education. And that's really a travesty.
Now, how do we even deal with that as a population here in America where we consider the possibility of warehousing people with disabilities? I think there was a school district within our area that was considering a special school for kids with special education needs. And many people know if you put individuals with disabilities or special needs, integrate them into society, they flourish.
They thrive.
They get along with others. They don't feel like they're ostracized by society.
And that's where I remember when I had a student and she was from Pakistan. I remember, and her mother said that in Pakistan, their kids would be in that type of room, what you're talking about, all housed in one area. They were uncared for. And she loved the United States special ed system because we tried to still include them. So it will be I'm going to say this over and over again. It would be a travesty to do that, to put all of them in it. It's almost going to be like a mini institution. We don't want that for our kids. That's the reason for the individual Disability Education Act. That's the reason for IEPs, which is individual education plan. That's the reason for your least restrictive environment, to make sure that kid is thriving and having a part of that curriculum. Socialization for our special ed kids are needed, and they're going to take that away.
And once again, the Trump administration, through its Department of Justice, is essentially saying the United States, the states, no longer have to follow the rules of the ADA and the Olmstead case, which was a monumental U.S. Supreme Court case, where they provide services like in the state of Texas, because you're not in an institution, you're not being warehoused, they provide services for you at home. So if they stop providing those services for you at home, the only alternative out there could be possibly going to, one of these segregated facilities.
But what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish.
Why would you touch something that's already working to a degree? Why? It's working.
Well, maybe you don't have that epicenter of the education department to oversee it.
And if you're doing that, then you're putting our special ed kids, students, in harm's way. And to me, that's showing me that you don't really care for this population. And so what can we do? Guys, we have to fight. You have to call your legislature. You have to email, call. You have to protest. If people really start, parents, let me be clear, if parents really start getting really in the front of this, it may not be as bad, but it's kind of silent, it's happening, but it's not making enough news headlines for this to happen. But we're going to have to fight this. I'm sorry.
Do you think we truly have a say? Because what the president has done, with mothballing education department, a lot of what he's done has been through executive orders, and the Congress. Well,
but even that.
Go ahead, Arnetta.
No, but even that. One thing that when I know, I'm on the executive board of Houston Federation of Teachers, which is a union. We have to fight no matter what. And even if it doesn't go our way, at least the world, our society will see they put forth an effort to fight. Because remember, somebody wants to get reelected again. And if you start touching the educational, let me say this, Isaiah, continue touching education, it's going to backfire.
Well, we will see what happens. Arnetta Murray, thank you for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
Early edition of the Factor Uncensored Primetime Live. We appreciate it. And of course, we're going to move on, and we want to get you guys involved in this conversation. If you find yourself with a debilitating illness, or you feel like you have a terminal sickness, illness, do you want the chance to decide if you end your own life? Well, in 13 states here in America, also the District of Columbia, 14 spots here in our country, you have some form of say in assisted suicide or ending your own life if you feel like you cannot do that. Now, there is a Debs Law in Illinois. Lawmakers approved SB 1950, also known as Debs Law, which would allow terminally ill adults and their own and in their own lives through prescribed medication under specific conditions. Patients must be diagnosed with a terminal condition by 2 physicians, have the mental capacity to make medical decisions, and be informed of alternatives such as hospice and pain management, various forms of care. So right now, there's been a lawsuit filed to try and block that, saying that many people should not be given that option because it will favor individuals who may not have disabilities, or those who may have disabilities. They may be recommended for this instead of treatment and counseling. So first of all, Matt, I didn't have an idea that there were so many places around the country where you had the opportunity for assisted suicide. I remember there was a time during the era of Dr. Jack Kevorkian, it was taboo to even think about ending your own life. But now in places like Illinois and other states, except Texas, you're not allowed in Texas. If you try
Not
that,
Texas.
you will be arrested. You will be arrested here in the state of Texas. But your thoughts about this and having the ability to end your life with a medication. Now, in the caveat with that, in many of these instances, doctors don't have to be there with you when you take the medication. In fact, so doctors can protect themselves legally. You're given the instructions on how to take the medication to end your life. So your thoughts about that, Matt?
I think at the end of the day, I think that, I mean, no pun intended, it's a tough pill to swallow when it comes to something like this. And the reason why I say that is because I think for me, the thought of having to end your own life because you're terminally ill is something that is really unfortunate to be in that situation. But I think at the end of the day, I think that people should have the right to end their life if they're terminally ill. Because like I mentioned to you earlier today when we were talking about this, if somebody is miserable or they're trying to be done with an illness or something, the other alternative is to complete suicide. And I think that people are going to look at their options, and I think people are going to do what they need to do, if that helps them not have to endure pain and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough one, and we just had a comment from Clever Girl Reads, and she says, "I would like the option if I were terminally ill." And once again, it is allowed in 13 states, and I think the District of Columbia, but not here in the state of Texas. If you find yourself in that situation now, the proponents of this law that we're seeing in Illinois, they're saying that it could be abused, that people who may have disabilities could be coerced into it by doctors. And so they just don't think that the law should be on the books. I also think they're challenging it in New York. But they make a good case, because if you take a look where in Canada, where assisted suicide is allowed there as well, and you hear some of the reasons why people have been approved for assisted suicide, it would be mind-blowing. There was this one guy I told you about who applied to have his life taken with medication, assisted suicide in Canada, because he was homeless. He was homeless, and he said he wanted to take his own life. He was approved. And here's the catch, Matt. Once people found out about his case, they created a GoFundMe for him. And then they raised thousands of dollars for him. He was like, okay, cancel that assisted suicide. I'm going to live. I'm going to live.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this much at the end of the day. If somebody were to give me some money too, I'd be like, I'm rich now. I got some money now coming in. So I don't blame him. But I think at the end of the day too, Isaiah, when it comes to this, it's just, I try to live my life by staying the hell out of other people's business. So I think that what may work for me may not work for somebody else. What works for somebody else may not work for me, vice versa, and everything like that. So I mean, I think it's hard for a lot of people to probably say that they would want to take advantage of this unless they're in that type of situation where they may have a terminal illness. I can't say at the end of the day, and I've seen some people who have passed away from cancer or other terminal illnesses, and when they pass away, they don't even look like who they were when they were healthy. And and I think for me, like if I had a terminal illness, no matter what the case may be, I may just want to be done with it so I can control the narrative. I've said that many a times. Like, I think one of the biggest things for me that's important is being able to control the narrative, whether it's my life, whether it's insert whatever thing here and stuff like that. And I feel like that's a very PR type of response. But I mean, if somebody wants to do it, I say do it.
Mhm. Do you think it could run amok in some states and some parts of this country, like we have seen in Canada, where they have given some of the most frivolous reasons for wanting to end their life, and the country has approved?
Yeah.
I don't want to say this is frivolous. There was this woman who was allergic to chemicals and the smell of chemicals, and so she applied to end her life because it's nightmarish to her when she gets burns on her body when she's around certain type of chemicals, and it doesn't even have to make contact, and that's just an odd case. But there's also cases where people have applied and been approved because they're diabetic, and they want to take their own lives. So I think there is that possibility where you could lose control of who applies and who is approved. I think you have to go through a 6-month period. You have to be examined by doctors and be of good state of mind as well. But who knows? Some people may slip through the cracks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you bring up a good point with that too, because I think at the end of the day, I mean, but it goes back to what I said a few minutes ago, is I think at the end of the day, people if they don't get approved for this, I mean, the other option that they could potentially take is just to end their own life on their own terms if they feel like that they need to do that. I mean, heaven forbid, but like I think people are going to make the decision whether they get assisted medication or whether they do it themselves. I just think at the end of the day, I would say I think that this is one of those types of decisions where people should have as much medical intervention as possible, just so they can make sure that that's the decision they want to make. But again, I mean, it's not for me to decide, but I think that people should have the right. Now, with that being said, I think that people should have the right to do whatever they want to as well, as long as they're not hurting somebody else, or anything of that nature too.
All right. And I think in Canada, like 5% of the population has used the option of assisted suicide there. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that is a lot of people.
And really quick, for those who are wondering, medical aid in dying is currently authorized in 13 states, as we said, and Washington, D.C. The states: California in 2015, Colorado in 2016, Delaware in 2025, Hawaii in 2018, Illinois in 2025, Maine in 2019, Montana in 2009, New Jersey 2019, New Mexico 2021, New York 2026, Oregon in 1994, Vermont in 2013, Washington, D.C. in 2016, and Washington State in 2008. And as we told you, Texas is nowhere on the damn list. They say if you try to kill yourself here, you will be arrested. And if doctors are involved, they could be arrested and even possibly face felonies. And of course, that was a great map by Keyshawn there of some of the places, but we'll just have to see. I was glued to the TV today, Matt, at about noon, and I think I had missed it, but we were airing it on Fox Local, and it was still streaming. This incredible sight of this man and this woman, 1,400 plus feet in the sky on an antenna on the Empire State Building, and I guess they were proposing to each other. They're daredevils. And it was a sight to behold, mind-blowing. I was just glued to the TV. I'm like, what the hell is this? And at some point, I think she had on, like, if you're into DC and comics and superheroes, you say she had on a cowl instead of a mask. A cowl, COWL, a cowl. Like, did he walk away?
I walked away.
But she looked like Batman or Catwoman, and she had this long black cape that was flowing and a banner. and a banner as well. And I think there it is. They're proposing, right, Matt?
They're proposing. And can I tell you something that's funny? So we were in our managers meeting today. And during our managers meeting, which is top, like, we're not supposed to be talking about what's happening in the managers meeting, but I think I could share this part. One of the other managers got on and they go, he just proposed to her during the thing up there on top of the Empire State Building. I was like, are you effing kidding me right now? I don't give a shit about somebody getting proposed to on the top of the building. But I will say this much, though. That video is insane to see. And here's the other thing, Isaiah. I will tell you this. I hate heights. It might be because I'm short. It might be because I'm just chicken shit when it comes to things. But when I saw that video, I'm like, there is no way in hell that anybody could pay me to get on top of that building to do that. But I mean, it's something. It's cute. I mean, the views are good, I guess.
Man, that was incredible. That was incredible. That is real love right there.
Until one of them fell off the side of the building.
Better than that.
Until one of them fell off the side of the building and went splat on the sidewalk below. Oh my
okay,
gosh.
here we go. How many people have climbed the Empire State Building? And once again, we're talking about 1,400 feet, 400 for all of our people who are visiting America from Europe, 400 meters instead of the 1,400 feet. Elaine Robert, number one in 1994. Jared Leto? Is that correct?
Listen, I didn't make that graphic. So
That don't even seem right.
Listen, homie, see Jared Leto.
It was for charity.
Oh, I'm like, what the hell?
Oh, yes, he did. It
organized
said
thing.
in 2023, November 2023, musician and actor Jared Leto made history as the first person to legally climb
Yes,
to the
yes.
top of the Empire State Building. All I gotta say is that's what happens when you got money, apparently.
Yeah, and luckily the Empire State Building didn't flop because everything Jared Leto is in flops.
Oh my gosh.
You know, look what he did to He-Man, Masters of the Universe. Who knew that would flop at the box office? We loved He-Man and Teela.
Listen,
Huh?
I gotta tell you something. So clever girl Reed said the news commentator had me cracking up. He sounded so upset over the engagement. I was. And listen, I'm gonna tell you this much. At the end of the day, I don't like
that was beautiful. That was incredible. And then okay, Keyshawn, what was on the banner? What did they write on the banner? What did they print on that banner?
That banner say,
when the power of love beats the love of power, the world knows peace.
did you hear that?
I didn't.
When the power of love.
Oh,
Yeah, tell me, Sonora.
love beats the love of power.
When the power of love beats the world, the love of power,
The world knows peace.
the world knows peace.
see, that's too many words. That's too many words. Too many words.
And Matt, so these guys are daredevils. They do this kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And guess what? Daredevils also go splat on the ground when they fall off the top of the Empire State Building.
There it is. That's incredible. That's a
This is a little difficult to read. This is a long. And how is anyone going to see this?
Helicopters.
That's the only way you can see this.
Listen, you all are all about this, and I'm over here like, nah. I mean, I will say this much: I think we were more enamored from the managers meeting about how great of a job our Fox 5 New York team did with the helicopter pilot circling the Empire State Building.
Yeah, I was concerned they would blow those damn people off. What if they blew them off with their propelling and winds?
Then they would have gone splat on the ground.
Look at you. You want to just end
All
this.
right, y'all. Say goodbye. 10 seconds left.
All righty, guys. Well, thank you guys for
enough
joining us. We appreciate your comments. And, of course, we'll see you back here tonight at 10:30.
All right, see y'all.